The twin moons of Valyria Prime hung low over the crystalline spires of the royal arena, their pale glow shimmering across an audience of thousands. The Valyrians, tall, silver-skinned, and born with bioengineered strength, stood packed together, buzzing with anticipation. Today was a historic day. Today, for the first time in centuries, a human had challenged a Valyrian champion to the right of ascendancy, and somehow, the human had won. Evan stood at the arena's center, chest rising and falling with heavy breaths, his knuckles raw and bloodied. His suit of battle armor, patched together from alloys far inferior to Valyrian tech, hung off him in torn metallic scraps. Yet he still stood tall, still unbroken. Around him, silence held the crowd like a vice. On the royal balcony, Queen Althera, ruler of Valyria and sovereign of 1,000 star systems, stared at him with a mixture of disbelief and reluctant admiration. "That was unexpected," she murmured. Beside her, Princess Elizabeth, her daughter and heir, leaned forward. Her long silver hair glowed faintly, reflecting the arena lights. Her violet eyes were wide, locked on the bruised, determined human below. "He won by will alone," Elizabeth whispered. "Not strength, not technology, just sheer will." The Queen exhaled. "And now, by our oldest law, he must be honored with the bond of alliance." Elizabeth's breath stilled. "Mother, that means yes," the Queen said. "You are to marry him." Evan had no idea what to expect when he was summoned to the audience chamber. All he knew was that the guards treated him differently now, still wary, still respectful, but no longer dismissive. They had witnessed the impossible. A human defeating a Valyrian war descendant in open combat. The hall's towering doors slid open. Avon stepped inside. The chamber glowed with soft amethyst light. Massive pillars carved from star crystal rose like frozen lightning. And at the far end stood Queen Althera and Princess Elizabeth. Evan swallowed hard. His pulse hammered despite the gentle silence. Queen Althera stepped forward. "Evan of Terra," she said, her voice resonant, "by our right you have earned the bond of alliance. And thus, as our law dictates, you are to take my daughter, Princess Elizabeth, as your consort." Evan blinked. "I am marrying the princess?" Elizabeth stepped closer, her expression unreadable, part curiosity, part confusion, part something deeper. "Yes," she said quietly. "Our laws are ancient. The one who proves superior in combat wins both alliance and family ties." Evan scratched the back of his neck. "I didn't fight for marriage. I fought because your champion challenged the honor of my people. And that," Elizabeth said, "is why our law acknowledges you." The Queen studied him. "You may refuse, but doing so would be an insult that could reignite tensions between our worlds." Evan met Elizabeth's eyes. They were bright, intense, yet strangely gentle. "If this is your law," he said carefully, "and if this alliance truly matters, then I will honor it." Elizabeth inclined her head. "Then our bond begins." A week later, Valyria Prime buzzed with preparations. The capital shimmered with cerulean streamers, holographic banners depicting the twin moons, and swirling light projections representing unity between species. For the first time in recorded Valyrian history, an off-worlder was entering the royal lineage. Evan walked through the palace gardens with Elizabeth. Bioluminescent flowers glowed under the moons, their petals opening and closing like breathing organisms. Elizabeth glanced at him. "You fascinate my people," she said. "They don't understand you, humans or me specifically." Evan chuckled. "Both." She paused. "Humans are physically weaker than Valyrians. Yet you push yourselves farther than our scientists believe possible. You endure pain beyond what your biology should tolerate. You have no genetic enhancements, no neural augmentations, no adaptive physiology. Yet you defeated a war-bred champion." "That champion underestimated what a human can do when cornered," Evan replied. "We improvise. We get stubborn. And sometimes we survive when we shouldn't." Elizabeth's lips curved slightly. "HFY," Evan raised a brow. "HFY, humanity." "For the win." It's something your diplomats say when they brag about human unpredictability. He chuckled. Yeah, that sounds like us. Elizabeth studied him for a moment. Tell me truthfully. Do you fear this marriage? Evan hesitated. A little. Why? Because I don't know my place here. Your world is extraordinary, advanced, and I'm just a guy from a blue planet still figuring out fusion drives. Elizabeth stopped walking, turning fully toward him. Evan, my mother's throne will someday be mine, and I still fear half the responsibilities laid before me. Fear is not weakness. She stepped closer. You faced a warrior designed for war with nothing but your resolve. The Valyrians call that foolish. She reached out, gently touching his hand. I call it courage. Evan felt heat rise to his face. I guess we're both scared then. Perhaps, Elizabeth said softly, but we face it together. The wedding ceremony unfolded beneath the shimmering arches of the celestial hall, where starlight refracted through crystalline panels, making the entire chamber glow like a nebula. Thousands of Valyrians watched as Evan and Elizabeth stood before the Queen. Evan wore ceremonial armor forged from alloy that shimmered like liquid night. Elizabeth's gown appeared woven from silver stardust, drifting around her like living light. Queen Althera raised her staff. Let all bear witness. This union forges a bridge between two worlds. A bond built not by conquest but by courage and by choice. Evan glanced at Elizabeth, who offered him a small, reassuring smile when they joined hands. A pulse of radiant energy rippled from the ceremonial amulet on her wrist. It swirled around them both, recording their bond in the chrono archives of Val, YRIA, and just like that, they were married. Later that night, after the feast and the celebration, Evan and Elizabeth stood on a balcony overlooking the glowing city. So, Evan said, leaning on the railing, does this mean I'm a prince now? Elizabeth laughed, a sound clear and bright. Not quite, but you are my partner, my ally, and my equal. That last part, Evan said with a grin, is all I care about. Elizabeth stepped beside him. You know, Evan, for centuries Valyrians believed humans were inferior, physically weaker, technologically primitive, emotionally volatile. She tilted her head. But tonight my people celebrated you, and why's that? Because you proved something we forgot. Her voice softened. That sometimes the greatest strength comes not from design or enhancement, but from the heart. Evan felt her hand slip into his. Why, huh? He whispered. Elizabeth squeezed his fingers. HFY, together, under the glowing moons of a world far from Earth. A human and a Valyrian princess looked out at a future no one had predicted, one forged by bravery, respect, and a bond stronger than any ancient law, and somewhere deep in the palace halls, the new legend began to echo. A human won the duel and changed an empire.